And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey folks, today we're taking a look at Forge War. Now, Forge War is a game that got a lot of hype. I was certainly very interested in it. The theme of it, getting resources and going out on quests, is something like from Lords of Waterdeep and Yedo. I love the idea of it. I was very excited to give it a try. When I opened the box, I was amazed at just how many components there are. Most of the components are super high quality. Just lots of cool things. I was ready to play it. Let's see what I think. You can play a short game which takes place over 7 rounds, or you can play a long game which takes place over 18 rounds. And either the 7th round will be the scoring, or the 18th round. And each of these rounds are very similar, except that it starts a new era. There's 3 eras. Now, the goal of the game is to get points, and you're going to get points by quests. And there are many quests. Let's show this quest here, for example. Investigate the kidnappings. Now, when you get one of these quests, you're going to take one of the smallest cubes in humanity and place it on that quest to keep track of, where you are in that quest. And this quest can give a possible 28 victory points. However, you may not complete the entire quest. You may only complete parts of it, in which case you would only get maybe here 10 points. So you're trying to get a lot of points, but you're going to have to complete these quests. To complete quests, you're going to need to send out knights. Each player is going to start the game with knights. Knights come, there's a male and female side to each of the knights, and your knights will start likely on a level 1, and they're going to need to be armed with different weapons. The weapons that they are armed with are going to give them power. For example, this weapon here gives a 6 power. It's a reaping scythe, but it needs these resources to get this weapon. You also need the ability to make that weapon. And that's the whole point of this game, to get these guys weapons so that they can go on these quests and score points. The first part of each round, you're going to play almost a game in of itself here on this resource board, which is randomly set up. And if you play the longer game, we'll have different resource pieces thrown in later on so that you can get rubies and diamonds and so on and so forth. Now, what you're going to do here is, in turn order, each player is going to be able to move one of their overseers, see these guys here with the mustache and whip, in a straight line. The spot that they move from, you're going to leave a worker in that spot of your color. If you happen to move over someone else's worker, you will flip that worker and it will become a worker of your own color. They're dissatisfied with their current employer for whatever reason. If you go over multiple people, you'll flip over the ones that are not your color to your color, and the ones that are your color to the color of whoever has the fewest on the board, which sometimes can be a painstaking process. After you're done moving, all the workers you went over and where you started are going to give you a resource of that type, either copper or iron or some of the valuable gems as time goes by. Each player is going to have an opportunity to do this once. The first player can do it again. However, if they do it twice, they will automatically go last in turn order. And the rest of turn order is determined by the number of workers. And that determines how the rest of the round goes. Players will play a worker placement game of sorts over here, where they'll be able to put out a worker and perhaps get more knights or level up their knights for money. Or buy this card here, which is a weapons card. Allows them to take 1 iron to make a level 2 spear weapon. Some quests require different levels, but some also require types of weapons. So if it needs a spear weapon, your guy would be fine if you had this one. Over here you have market cards. I can change iron in for sapphires if I own this card. Or here, whenever I sell a resource, I get an extra coin. There's one-time use cards. Here, I get 2 copper. Or over here, I get an extra level 1 adventurer. I also have the opportunity to go here to learn to make more weapons, or to go up here to move a cube on one of my adventure paths an extra spot. Each player has a player board. This is the advanced side. This is the regular side, which shows you the market. You can use the market. You can buy and sell once each round. You have a token to remind you if you've bought and sold each round. And different things you can do. Like I said here, you can upgrade your knights to level 4 and they get special abilities. And this is to keep track of all of them, to keep track of the resources, to talk about how end game scoring goes. And this board keeps track of that. At the beginning of the game, you're going to get these cards, which are going to basically let you pick your starting resources. So maybe if I took these cards, I get 2 more knights, I'd get 3 coins, and I get these resources. Or maybe I'll take these 2 cards, which gives me 5 gold, an emerald, and I can upgrade 2 of my knights a level. Or this one here, which lets me upgrade 2 resources, and I have the ability to make the copper spear. See, everyone starts with some weapons in play in front of them. Everyone has a copper sword and a copper dagger. You can always use the different copper materials that you get to make these weapons. You pay that many resources, you'll put the resource on your knight, and that will make your knight a strength 2 or 1. But there are other weapons out in the middle of the table, like this copper axe or this copper spear, that you can use if you have a cube of your color on it. You have to pay, and you basically have learned that ability. And as time goes by, you're going to get bigger and badder weapons. As you know, for example, an elfinwood bow, that's a level 5, and it's also a +1 for each incomplete quest leg. Or this eruptive halberd, which is a 10, and it's an axe and a spear, but you can see you need different resources to make this. Or demon fists, or blood ravager. So there's all kinds of weapons that you can get as time goes by and the different levels go by. So that's basically the game. First, you're going to play the kind of game over here where you move your pieces around and get resources. And there's some other rules in that, like if you have a clump of certain amount, they go away, etc. Then you're going to go over here and do some worker placement, possibly buying or selling in the market. And then each player is going to have a chance to buy quests and send people out on quests. All quest trackers move along. If you don't have enough power, the quest goes away. Otherwise, you can go on and hopefully complete the quest and get a lot of points. There are other ways to get points at the end of the game. These spaces turn into extra spaces to put workers on and get resources. There's also an accelerated type game where for the first rounds you are essentially getting extra resources. They're kind of just build up rounds to the rest of the game, but that's how you play. Well, here is the deal. I think Forge War is going to stand, for me at least, as an example of a game that badly needed a developer. This game has some great ideas, and I love the theming of it. The artwork is phenomenal. The idea of progressing on the quest is pretty cool, and getting weapons to go out on those and sending people, I like that. But an editor might have said, hey, this whole first chunk of the game, which is similar to Yinch and hey, that's my fish, or Yinch, that's my fish, this whole chunk of the game is like a completely different game. It doesn't even fit in thematically. When you're moving overseers around the mine, a group of 5 disappears, you jump over other people, they change colors because you're overworking them. You know, they tried to shoehorn theme in there, but it's essentially an abstract game that completely breaks the flow of the game and doesn't have anything to do with it. It's a way to get resources, which on its own might be a very interesting game, but here it felt like they were shoehorning it in. You know what they need to do? Take a knife and boom, cut that right out. They really could have, and the game would not have hurt because the game is long. And as the game goes on, essentially everything just increases in numbers, right? Ooh, I have a better weapon, and I can now go on better quests. And I know that's how RPGs are and things. You get better weapons and go on quests, and essentially all the numbers get higher. But I think this game could have used a bunch of just cutting and narrowing things down. The game is fun for 7 rounds. Why do we need to play it for 18? But you're like, well, I want to play with the better weapons and stuff. Well, then you got to use it accelerated setup, and it's a fairly long game. But my biggest problem is that whole resource thing at the beginning, and as interesting as it is, really feels tacked on. Then these cubes of minusculeness, I don't know whose idea these were, but that was a bad component choice because moving them on the things is very fiddly, and the game is really no interaction at all, except I might put my worker where you want to put yours. That hardly ever happens, but it might happen. Most of the interaction happens on that hey, that's my Yinch beginning part where people are moving around. That's it. The rest of it, where you go out in quests, I might take stuff you want, but everyone's kind of just working on their own quests and moving around, and you can do all that simultaneously. You have to, or the game will go entirely too long. But I just kind of felt a bit of a disconnect there. It's interesting. I mean, I guess the biggest interaction is, hey, you stole my quest, because some of the quests are much easier to complete than others, and so people want to get those and finish those and get the points. The game is fine overall. I do like it. I mean, once you add the advanced stuff, there's all sorts of things. When you make a knight go to level 4, you can give them a special ability. Maybe they have a certain weapon all the time, or they get extra money. But there's just so much to keep track of. Then there's cards. I mean, this game takes up a huge amount of real estate space on the table. So I wanted to like it, and I like a lot of parts of it. Okay, I'm not saying the game is horrible. It's not. It's cool. But it could have been so much better had it just been developed more. Cut off that whole beginning part. As neat as that is, it's a whole nother game in the box. Maybe narrow some of the things down later on. And, collecting the resources and trading the resources, there's so much. Why couldn't we cut out 2 of those resources and just kind of narrow the focus down? I know people want something that's more complex, but I don't think this game has as much complexity as it has more stuff. And there is a difference. It's not like adding all these different resources adds much strategy. Instead, it just adds more things to keep track of. Good ideas in this game. It looks beautiful. It's a great production. It just missed out in the development phase. Dice Tower Judgment, a lot of great ideas, but in the end, too long.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.
I'm ready. Închide ușa.
De.